arrest scandal and the NSA atrocities convince you? You need a watchdog on Washington with insider sources. You need Hannity every day.
All right, 25 now till the top of the hour, 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. Another horrible school shooting, this time in Santa Fe, Texas. And if you have kids in the car, I want to warn you, we're going to play some of the police scanner and some of the sound parents, students that were there. The shooter just walks right into an art class and starts firing away. And it raises all of the questions, sadly, that I have been bringing up over and over again. When are we going to do the basic fundamental things? And that is full, complete threat assessments, security assessments of every school in the country. We could do it. Local police, coupled with FBI, go school by school by school and do a complete threat assessment. And then, of course, you got to secure the perimeter of every school. Then, of course, you have to have IDs for every student and anybody that's getting into the school. Points of entry must be controlled. Then, of course, you need metal detectors. There are ways, and then I would add to retired, armed police or law enforcement or retired military on the floor of every school. Concealed carry. And this way we can protect, because these instances are over in such a short period of time. We can do it. Anyway, let me play from earlier today.
I started we'll make an entry. We'll make it. Yeah. We're going to make an entry yet. To the front by front of the swamp. First one outside fire. More shots fired, additional shots fired. Still have several more shots fired. He's actually shooting. He's in the art room. We got shots fired right now, guys. We need all of it. You've been custody. And at least one third is in custody.
She called me and she said, Mom, there's shots at the school. I, thank God, was not far away. Turned around, got here as quick as I could, stayed on the phone with her, told her to stay quiet, to stay calm, to breathe. And just waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally, they were leading her out of the school. Thank God she's okay.
We knew that something was much more wrong than just a fire. We immediately saw 15 cop cars and sheriffs immediately just heading to the school, and we just had no idea what was happening. As soon as the fire alarm went off, we all just stood up and exited as normal, because we've had fire drills before, we've had many, so we knew what to do. But when we got outside, you could just see that our admin and our teachers knew that something wasn't right, and they didn't show it at all in the way they were acting. They 100% made sure that we were all safe, but you could tell that they knew something was happening. As soon as they started telling us to run across Highway 6, we ran across, and they were telling us to get away from the roads, to get into the ditches. And we stood there for a few minutes, and then we had teachers escorting us to behind the mechanic shop that is across the street that faces the high school. And we stood there for quite some time, and we were all filling out papers just so they could do head checks and see who all was there. And then after a while, they formed us into two lines, and we walked down Highway 6 towards our junior high campus to be where we could meet with our families and know that we were safe at that point.
All right, so sad. 8 confirmed dead, maybe as many as 10, most of them students, as he literally walked right into an art class and began firing here. We also know that in addition to the carnage at the Santa Fe, Texas high school this morning, school district officials tweeting out that a number of bombs, plural bombs, were discovered both inside and outside the building. LA Times reporting there have been explosive devices found in the high school surrounding areas adjacent to the high school. The school district said in a tweet, because of the threat of explosive items, community members should be on the lookout for suspicious packages and anything that looks out of place. Now, we do have one suspect that has been identified here. The shooter has been identified, suspected shooter, and his name is Demetrius Pagorchis is his name, a 17-year-old who posed on social media with a T-shirt bearing the words "Born to Kill." And as usual, we're finding other social media fingerprints within minutes, which raises the question, why are people not noticing this? You know, a T-shirt with the words "Born to Kill" emblazoned on it, not good. Got another social media page making reference to Nicholas Cruz. He's reported to have been armed with, bombs. And anyway, joining us now to discuss, we have Joe Eaton. He's program director of FasterSavesLives.org. Dan Wos, author of Good Gun, Bad Guy, Behind the Lies of the Anti-Gunner, and his newly released Good Gun, Bad Guy 2, Destroying the Anti-Gun Narrative. Jonathan Giller, author of the #1 bestseller, Sheep No More. Thank you all for being with us. Again, Jonathan, you have been on this program in a number of these incidences, and then we go immediately within seconds and minutes, we find social media postings that said, okay, why didn't we see the signs, the warning signs?
You know, Sean, again, once again, you're right. Here we are. We're discussing something that is a repeat of the last school shooting and school shootings all the way back to Columbine, where by and large these things are traceable quite often. And every time, 100% of the time, there's been little to no threat assessment. There's been little to no, if any, even thought about locking down the perimeters, the doors around the schools, and narrowing the funnel so that they can really keep an eye on who's coming in and out of that school and what they're coming in and out with. There's just none of that that's happening. And Sean, after the school shooting in Florida, I've said this, I'll stick with it. Until they do that, there's going to be continued death in schools.
It's not going to happen without taking decisive action. I think I've identified the decisive action. And if anyone has better ideas, I'm all for it. But making schools no gun zones isn't working.
After I was on your show after the Florida shooting, and we were talking about this exact same thing, you said that, you know, Jonathan would be willing to do threat assessment around the country. I wrote the book Sheep No More, which you wrote the foreword about. It's all about awareness and attack survival. I literally had schools and PTAs, the Parent Teacher Association, say that they wouldn't spend the money on it because it would probably never happen at their schools. That's insanity.
Yeah. Let me go to Joe Eaton. You are the program director at FasterSavesLives.org. There have been good programs that can be duplicated, paradigms created that can be duplicated. Why don't we do it?
Well, we are seeing a lot of progress in schools, but you know, the reality is, as one of the sheriffs I met with the school board just last week told the school, do all of this other stuff, harden the entrances, set up the checkpoints, monitor the social media. But he simply told them the truth of the matter is by the time a kid has spent 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years in your building, they found a way around everything you've put in. You still have to have that additional layer of safety and security. And that's why many of the schools are looking at including firearms in their safety program. And we've trained over 1,300 from 225 districts in just the past 5 years, and we have over 400 more on our schedule for this summer. They're starting to plan, they're starting to train, and they're saving lives.
Well, you know what? It's got to happen everywhere. It's got to be universal. Dan, I know that a lot of these shootings that we cover, and I'm looking forward to the day we don't have another one, are happening in these, you know, gun-free zones, supposedly. And, you know, Dan, you talk about good gun, bad guy, and, you know, the lies behind the anti-gunner. Look, I don't care if I respect the fact that some people do not want or might be afraid of firearms. I get it. But you know what? We trust police officers with firearms. They're trained. We trust military with firearms. They're trained. You know, my question to anybody, if you're in a municipal building and there's an active shooter, or you're in a school and there's an active shooter, would you prefer to have trained professionals with concealed carry weapons on them or not? And for me, the answer is simple, and it's not a political issue for me.
Oh, Sean, I think the answer is clear. And by the way, I just want to say it's an honor to be on your show. And when it comes to holding the liars accountable, you're a one-man wrecking machine, and we appreciate you very much.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Well, here's what we're going to see next. We're going to see the very sinister anti-gun radical media and just anti-gun radicals come out and try to use this, like they do all the other incidents, to foster more irrational gun fear and more unjust hatred and anger toward gun owners. And this is the stuff that changes the narrative into a negative thing. And this is the stuff that I do my best to try to expose, and I know you do too, exposing their tactics and their strategies, because what they're doing by turning this into an anti-gun owner narrative is really probably the most evil thing we could do. We need to look at our society and look at the cause. What are we doing to create these killers in our society? What's going on in the minds of these kids? I mean, we know how we create foreign terrorists. We know how that happens. What's happening with our kids?
I don't know the answer to it, but they're telegraphing it almost every time. I can't think of an instance, and that goes for people that are committing acts of terror or kids that eventually become involved in these school shootings. They're putting it right out there on social media. There's got to be some monitoring by these schools of these students, not to be nosy, not to be intrusive. Just look at their public postings. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's perfect. We need to do that. We need to identify the problem, and we need to harden our schools first and foremost. But I think we need to get to the cause. What's the cause? Because we're always chasing around the effects, but we're never really looking at what's causing these kids to do that.
I think that's a very good point, and I think that's part of it. I will take a break. We'll come back more on this terrible shooting, another school shooting, this time Santa Fe, Texas. More details coming up. Listen, how about Mother's Day? Did you get the gift you wanted this year? So many people I know consider surgery. They don't like bags, puffiness under their eyes, or they have droopy, sagging eyelids. Please, before you ever consider that, I want you to get Genucel by Sean Hannity. Now, you can't get this at any store. It is their biggest seller. It contains natural peptides, plant stem cell therapy, natural ingredients, and they're going to guarantee bags and puffiness go away, and you're going to see results in as little as 12 hours, or you get your money back. Guaranteed. You have nothing to lose. As a matter of fact, you'll see results like Diane in Savannah writes, I've been using this product now for a few days, already love it. I can tell a difference in my eyelids. I totally recommend it to all of my friends. Now, again, you'll see results in 12 hours. And if you order Genucel from Sean Hannity, they'll give you their brand new Genucel eyelid lift for droopy, sagging eyelids. They'll give you that free. They'll include a second surprise luxury gift for free. And if you order right now, express shipping is free. All right, just go to Genucel.com, Genucel.com. The toll-free number is 800-SKIN-509, 800-SKIN-509. Call now, and you won't regret it. Genucel.com, 800-SKIN-509. Quick break, right back.
Up next, our final roundup and information overload hour. Your favorite shows at WGY News anytime, anywhere. Download our free iHeartRadio app today.
As we continue with Joe Eaton, he's the program director at FasterSavesLives.org. Dan Wos, author of Good Gun, Bad Guy. Also, Jonathan Gillum, author of the bestseller Sheep No More. Before we even get to the cause, I think we need to secure every school. And then,
absolutely,
one thing, in the case of the Parkland shooter, one of the things we learned is this was a very troubled kid. He couldn't even bring a backpack to school. He'd been disciplined over 50 times. They threw him out of school. How did he get into school?
Yeah, again, schools are looking at doing a lot of this. And, we work with hundreds of different districts, and the mindset's starting to change in the schools. I think that's why programs like the Faster Saves Lives program is so important.
You keep saying that, but I don't mean to be rude. What percentage of schools are doing this?
Well, we've worked, just our volunteer nonprofit have worked with 225 different districts in just 5 years.
And how many schools are in the country? About?
I know in Ohio that there's about 700 school districts. So we have worked with probably 20% of the school districts in Ohio. But the schools are working outside of this program also. And the reality is that they realize they have to keep doing more and more every time. These events are going to continue. Why? That's a question that somebody has to answer. But the fact is that violence is going to continue no matter whether we wake up in a magical world tomorrow with no guns or not. There's still going to be people committing violence, and they have to be prepared for that.
Well, I mean, that's the scary part. And Dan, this is the thing. I'm not saying everybody needs to be a responsible gun owner. Well, anyone that has guns does need to be. I think there's certainly strong arguments to be made about criminals not having access to guns, but by their very nature, they don't obey laws. Certainly, people with mental health problems should not be allowed near a firearm. But more importantly, we've just got to assume the worst at this point, don't we?
I think so. That's why I say, hardening the schools is most important, first and foremost. But, another thing that comes from the anti-gun radicals is they want people to think that us, gun owners, guys like you and me, want everyone to be armed in the schools, even the lunch lady. They make it look like such a horrible scenario where anything could go wrong, and that's what they want to create in the narrative. They want everyone to think that it's going to be the Wild West. The truth is, there are some people who are inclined to carry a gun. You know this, I know this, and we have friends who are capable and trained. These are the people that should have the opportunity in the schools, whether they're teachers, whether they're whatever faculty.
See, but I don't even think we should put the responsibility on teachers. My idea would be that any retired law enforcement, retired police officer, or retired military person that wants to serve their local school district, here's the deal, that they would get all state, local, federal taxes removed from their life. All of it. If you give, say, 15 hours a week. Why don't we incentivize them that way? It doesn't cost school districts a penny. It doesn't cost the country a dime. And for the most part, nobody's going to miss, whatever money they would be otherwise paying in taxes. Give these guys a break, an incentive to go and serve their local district. I guarantee you'd have more people signed up than you would ever need.
Absolutely. And the NRA is backing the National School Shield program, which I'm sure you've heard Dana Lash talk about. Mm-hmm. And that's another great example, from what I see of it now, a great example of training police officers to be able to handle these situations. Now, these situations in schools are going to be a little bit different than what an officer might experience out in the street. So I think that's another great way of doing it. But people who are capable. Absolutely.
All right, guys, thank you. We'll have more coming up later in the program today. Quick break, right back, and we'll continue. Our news roundup information overload hours next.